Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Wednesday, the 17th of May. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined this morning by Stevie Clifford. Finally, Stevie, a few technical issues behind the scenes, but we've got you here now, which is great to see.
Yeah, apologies, folks. It's my fault. We were late today. I think the computer was just like, no more baldiness today. I'm not having it. So they just wouldn't let me on, Derek, would it? I was on the phone to Derek trying to explain, and then we got logged in and we managed to get it sorted. So apologies, folks. My fault. Hands up.
Yeah, well, what good things come to those who wait. So we've got you here now. So all good. Before we talk Rangers, folks, just a quick word for our offer we've got on just now. I'm sure you're all aware of it. You can get a year's worth of access to the website for just £12. That's just £1 a month. It is quite incredible. Our best ever offer. You just head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe to sign up. We've also got a £4 for 4 months offer as well if you want to take advantage of that one. Now, not only do we have those brilliant offers on the website, but you also will be entered into a draw to have lunch at the Blue Sky Lounge restaurant for 3 people on the 3rd of June. And not only that, you get to have lunch with a club legend as well. So it really is a sensational offer we've got on just now. So make sure you sign up to be in with a chance of winning that. Right, let's talk Rangers, Stevie. I wanted to start with Tom Lawrence. Michael Buell has been speaking about Lawrence. Of course, he's been out for several months now. End of August, of course, he limped off against Ross County. Boy, of Rangers missed him. But he's been speaking about his recovery, of course, and how big a role he could potentially play next season. I'll just read you some of the quotes and I'll get you your views on it. He says, "Tom will be a really important player for us. He is a player I haven't had, and Gio didn't have for a long period either. He has been lost. It's been like that. Hollander was so important to us. Roof was so important to us. Roof has played twice since I came back and scored in both games. He's just not been available. We lost key players, in my opinion, key athleticism in Aribo, Bassey and Patterson for good money, but we lost key players. Balogun was a big influence. Defoe was a big influence. Hollander, Roof. We brought Lawrence in to be a big influence. He came in as an important signing and an experienced member of the squad. He didn't come in to be a player for the future. He came to be a now player." He also said that Tom started the season ever so well. He was important in the PSV games, for example. Then he got a horrific injury. He was on his way back from that and had some complications from that. I expect him to be back properly a couple of weeks into pre-season, either at the same time as everybody else or a couple of weeks behind. But having said that, he needs to make up maybe 8 or 10 months. So we need to clean that up for sure. We need to have our strongest, oldest, most experienced players available for more often next year, playing with a bit more consistency and a slightly tighter squad. And then we'll see where it takes us. The challenges will still be the same. The pressures and the expectations are maybe going to be a little bit higher. It's an exciting time because it's time of change, and I'm going into it with real optimism. He added on his recovery, he moved up here on his own to play for Rangers. When you're not playing, I think it's important you have your family around you. So it's a mixture of being here for what he needs when he's working and having the support network around him when he needs it, because he has been allowed to return to Manchester to be closest to his close family while he recovers from that injury. He then added, the first thing you do is to make him aware that you know him as a player. He's spoken to Tom Lawrence, he said. He knows that because we played against each other a lot, but then you let him know he's valued and you ask him for an opinion from watching from the outside. And as he gets closer to returning, then you start talking about the way we are going to play and where he fits in. I don't think that was the right thing to do early in his injury, but we have had the discussion in the last couple of weeks because now we are talking about what he is coming back to. You can see that his whole personality is changing now because he is back in rehab and is starting to move in the right direction. We've discussed Tom Lawrence before, Stevie. I thought when the summer arrivals came to the club last year that he would be the pick of the bunch. It looked that way for the first few weeks of the season. I thought he was terrific until he suffered that, as Michael Beale called it, a horrific injury. Rangers have missed him massively. If he comes back 2 weeks into pre-season, that's a lot better than that initial diagnosis, I think, of the back end of pre-season. I think we're looking at almost the start to the end of August, I think, initially. But it's highly beneficial that Rangers get this boy back and back firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think everybody recognises how good Tom Lawrence is and what a good player he is. So I don't think there would be much kind of argument or counter points on that from any of the support. He was very good. He started well, capable of grabbing a goal as well, Derek, which we don't have too many of them from our midfield, or certainly didn't when he first came in. I'd be really interested to see him in with Cantwell and Raskin, and better players around him and what he's able to do, and with a firing kind of front line. So Tom Lawrence is certainly one that you're looking and coming back and making an immediate kind of impact on the team once he's fit, may I add, because it's a big injury. It's a lot to come back for, 10 months out for anyone. So it may take him a wee bit longer, but he's one that maybe you forget about a wee bit, Derek, because last summer's business wasn't the best, arguably, for the times we needed it. But the longer it's went on, I think it's become apparent just how much we've missed Tom Lawrence. But a player I really like, Derek. He gets stuck in. He's capable of shot. He's capable of scoring goals. We've seen a cracking header at Easter Road. He got that long range shot against PSV, albeit it was kind of chucked in. He also had one, I think, possibly St Johnstone. I remember there was a cutback and he tucked that away as well. So he's capable of making those runs, set up a few for Antonio Cholak as well. So, yeah, I mean, listen, I think he's going to be a cracking player for us. Wee bit of patience required, I think, maybe, in terms of getting him back to properly where he is, But having him back that early in pre-season is a definite boost. So, automatically when you think about an injury update at Rangers, it's like, how many extra months is he going to be out for? But it's good to know that it's the other way this time. And definitely looking forward to him getting back. He can play a real role, Derek, in this team. It'd be interesting to see where he would fit. You would probably imagine that from the team on Saturday, you would think that maybe he would come in instead of Jack or Lundstrom. Is that his position? Maybe in a three, kind of like that. He can play off the wide. We know he was playing off the right quite a wee bit under Gio. So interesting. There's a few options with him, but I wonder if he's the kind of player where in home games and away games where you don't necessarily need two defensive midfielders, could you play him, Raskin, and a more defensive base kind of one if you needed? There's a lot you could do with them once you get the balance right and things. So definitely looking forward to seeing more of Tom Lawrence. He made an early impression on me for sure, and definitely looking forward to having him back.
Yeah, he'll be a big player for Rangers, I'm sure. Fingers crossed we can keep him clear of injury going forward. Loads of comments coming in. Magic Man 147, just another fellow injured player. Does anyone know what Hollander's status is? I know he'll be off in the summer. What is his condition currently? I think it was quite unique. Johnny did ask Michael Beale about the status of Phil Hollander recently, Stevie, in a press conference. I think you may have been present for that one. I'm not entirely sure, but he said it was a very unique injury that he had, and I very much doubt we're going to see him in the Rangers jersey again. That's the bottom line, which is a crying shame, because I think most supporters would agree when he was fit, he was the best out-and-out defender at the club. But the unfortunate thing was we very rarely saw it. He'll be moving on, Stevie, won't he? And I think there was murmurings that he'll be heading back to his homeland of Sweden. I know that Malmo were keeping an eye on him, but yeah, I very much doubt we'll see him in a Rangers jersey again. Was it a foot injury or something like that? I think that he'd suffered. He's been out for a considerable amount of time.
As far as I'm aware, and this isn't gospel, so I may have maybe getting confused. I thought it was an Achilles issue he had.
Yeah.
He had it in both feet, so he had the same issue. I think he got over one, and then the other one kind of kicked in, and he had to get it cleared up. He's been out a very long time. You'll not see him. He'll not get a renewal on his contract because simply, Derek, it's nothing to do with ability or that. We can't run the risk of keeping him and then breaking down. And he's such a big wage that we simply can't afford it. So there's a reason we got Philip Hollander for £3 million, and that was it. And that was the reason, because he was prone to an injury or two. So it's a real shame because I think everybody liked him when he seen him. So in answer to the question, what is his condition currently? Michael Beale's not really been forthcoming on it. He said a unique injury, I think, to either side.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's an issue with his Achilles. I'm sure it's somewhere in there, but an official diagnosis from the club, I'm not sure we've had one as such. But yeah, he'll not be getting a contract renewal, and I wouldn't be surprised, like you said, Derek, to see him kind of play out his days back in Sweden, and probably goes on to play 60 games a season, like most people do when they leave us. So a great player for us when he's been fit, but I think the stats, I think he's only played, close to 40% of games available and stuff, which we can't afford to have.
Yeah. Just on that injury situation, there'll be a video coming on the YouTube channel soon, folks. I spoke to someone from BBC Stoke just regarding two targets, and that leads us on to a lot of comments coming in about what's the latest with Jack Butland and Dujon Sterling. I believe that Dujon is more or less done as far as we're aware. Jack Butland seems to be dragging a little bit. There is murmurings that there's a bit of an impasse going on there. We talked, I think, on Monday when we'd done a look back to the game at the weekend, Stevie. I think there's a big decision to be made for Michael Beale with regards to the goalkeeper situation. I think we're all in agreement that a goalkeeper has to be brought in. But I don't think, I think with Robbie McCrory's performances, that's given them something to think about, hasn't it, in terms of who's going to be the number one going forward. At this stage of the day, would you like to see Jack Butland come in? And if he is coming in, of course, I can't imagine him coming in and being happy at being second fiddle. He'll be coming up wanting to be number one, but then you've got Robbie as well doing ever so well. Also, it's a big decision for Rangers.
It's funny because Michael Beale, we've spoke about this on here before, Michael Beale swerved the Jack Butland question quite a few times in press conferences. Even the likes of when we asked him about Dujon Sterling, he said he's a very good player, but we don't want to comment, until something's permanent and, we can talk about it for definite. And that was interesting because that's more or less telling you it's true and everything else. On the Jack Butland one, the times that he was asked outright, he's not even acknowledged it. He's kind of swerved it. So I wonder if there's a wee bit more to that. We've discussed it before. It has at times reportedly been close, but then there's talk that he's been offered another deal by Manchester United. His contract's obviously up at Palace. Depends what he wants, Derek. Does he want to come up and be number one and play in the big stadiums, or is he conditioned now just to be in a backup, and he's quite happy to be at a club like Man United where he's going to get a big amount of money and be happy just to be, a bit part player? We've seen, because of the English quota and things like that, there's been guys like, I think it was a boy Carson that ended up at Man City, getting a fair amount just for being, a backup and never ever going to play. So I'm not suggesting that Jack Butland's quite there yet, but it's a big decision for him. But for a Rangers point of view, Robbie McCrory's done in, and he's come in and he's been excellent. 4 clean sheets. Even this season, he's 3 very good saves against Aberdeen off his line. Dominated the box area, which we all want. And then on Saturday, he was excellent. The same kind of performance, quick off his line, commanding, everything you want off a keeper, really. Yeah. And it makes you think, if he had come in at other times, where would we be? So, it's a lot, because if we're going to be bringing Butland in, Derek, he's not coming up the road for 10 grand. So he'll be coming up for the top wage bracket, and he'll expect to be number one. Can we afford to make him number one and then just say to Robbie, you're back to being backup, or you're back to be pushing him? If Jack Butland comes up and he makes a couple of early mistakes, the clamour's going to be immediately to put Robbie McCrory in, naturally. So it's an interesting one. Would you then, does the dynamic change? Because instead of McGregor, McGregor's going, but instead of McLaughlin going, would you keep McLaughlin but just move McCrory? Instead of moving him up to 2, would you jump him up to 1 and then just keep McLaughlin, who we think is going to go, But the whole dynamic changes if you suddenly think, well, Robbie's actually my number one, not my number two. So now I don't need a number one. So it's really interesting to see what he does. If he doesn't get Butland, I think that 6 weeks ago, if we didn't get Butland, then there would be a lot of people going, oh, no, we really still need a number one and things like that. But I think the dynamic around Robbie McCrorie's now changed. I think that the kind of discussion around him is now changed. So, would he then, just jump to number one and you would keep McLaughlin as two, as purely as a backup? It's interesting to see what he does. Why would you go out? The only reason I'm saying this is because if McCrorie's going to be your number one, and you immediately and before you thought maybe he would be two, and you bring in a number one, but if you're going to have to go out and bring in a number two or a backup or an experienced goalie, well, we have one that's still got a year left.
Yeah.
So if there's no interest in him, Derek, and you're not pushing him out the door as such, you might be as well putting McCrorie as your number one and keeping him as your number one, and McLaughlin let him run out his contract. So there's a few different dynamics. There's a few options there. But if Butland comes in, we're certainly very strong in that position. There's real competition there. You'd imagine that he's going to come up as number one. So there's a big challenge for Robbie as well. But I think Robbie's more than proved that he can be our number one, and he's at least deserving of a long-running shot. But got to be careful, though, Derek, because what happens if he is our number one and then 3 games into next season, he's kind of crumbled a wee bit? The fans, we aren't the most patient. Would we quickly change and stuff like that? So it's a big decision for Buell, and it's a situation where we've kind of kicked the can down the road quite a wee bit on the goalkeeping position. So it's a big decision. If he came out and said, look, he's going to be my number one, then I don't think many of us would have an issue. So it's an interesting one. Definitely an interesting one. The Butland one, I'm not kind of privy to any information other than what everybody knows, which is, apparent interest and stuff like that. So I think the Dujon Sterling one's a wee bit more clear. Yeah. But Butland at the moment, no, I don't think we've been, told unequivocally that he's definitely coming. So interesting to see how that one transpires. One to watch, I think.
Yeah, just on Butland, John Adams says may get a chance at Man United. He may very well do. David De Gea is hopeless at the moment. So
he's about to sign a new contract, though, Derek. So regardless of how hopeless he's been, he's always going to be number one. And then have they not got the other boy that's been out on loan and stuff as well? So the young Henderson. Yeah. So they've got a wee bit in front of him. I don't see Butland being anything other than a backup.
Stevie, it's like you say, a lot of these clubs down south, like Man City, Liverpool, they like to bring in a homegrown player as a number 3. They'll never play in a million years, but it's just to meet the quota, isn't it? So you see Jack Butland, at 30 years of age, it's plenty of miles left in the tank, but it's got a big decision to make come the summer. Harry Padda raises a point here. He says, I think Rob McCrorie needs to play at a big away game. Most of his games have been at home. Did play in that game against Alishkert, if you remember that Europa League qualifier over there. Where were they from again? Was it Armenia or something like that? I'm not entirely sure. You can let us know if I've got that one wrong. But
over there, Derek, somewhere over there.
Yeah, over there somewhere, far away from me and you, Stevie. That's for sure. But he did well on that occasion. A clean sheet. Listen, I think Robbie's got the jersey from now until the end of the season at least, and of course Michael Buell will be watching them at close quarters every day of the week, so he'll be able to make an informed choice. But certainly the goalkeeper situation is one that Rangers need to make sure they get right this summer, because it has the old kicking that the can down the road hasn't worked. So listen, it'll be interesting to see what happens with regards to that. Lots of internet rumours, Stevie, doing the rounds, and a lot of comments coming in with regards to Graham Souness. Aldo says, Derek, is Souness coming home? I think we touched on this. I think when he was announced that he was being let go by Sky, the rumour mill was fired up. People thinking that he might be coming back to Ibrox in some capacity, Stevie. Would you like to see Graham Souness back in some way, shape, or form at Ibrox? Is that ship sailed for you?
Right. Here's my prediction, Derek. if anyone is interested in it. I think the rumours of a takeover, I think rumours of money coming in and that are complete nonsense. I think we hear that every summer, and I think it's without foundation. And the reason I say that is because there's something that we talked about online quite a bit. Anyone that's on Four Lads or even Heart and Hand and that have said the same thing, that if you're taking over a club like Rangers, there's so many 10% here and there. It's not one owner. So you would have to do a lot of groundwork. And I don't think there's any way that we wouldn't have heard or it wouldn't have been declared that there was solid interest. So I don't see that happening in any way. Could I see Graham Souness coming back as a club ambassador? I would say I would put money on that happening at this moment in time. Maybe even a non-executive director. So that's my prediction in terms of what's going to happen. Do I see him leading any kind of revolution of takeover? You know, these WhatsApps about the training ground being closed and all that are all completely false and nonsense. So I think with these things, you know, as much as the WhatsApp rumours are fun, Derek, we're going to have a few months of this with transfers and stuff like that. I would urge people not to take too much into it. I think when Souness said that he was leaving Sky, it's a natural kind of fit to try and see if he comes back up. I don't see him coming back up to take like a major role, like a director of football or things like that. I don't see that happening in any way. But as a club ambassador, yeah, absolutely. I think that's one that could happen, maybe even a non-executive director. What better way, Derek, than, you know, if you're going for a big target, and we know Michael Buell was out in Rome and stuff, and say we're trying to get an Italian player or we're trying to get a big player like that, who's your club ambassador that's coming with you? Graham Souness, who was a legend over at Sampdoria and stuff like that. So, you know, these things make sense to me. That makes sense if you're trying to grow the profile and you're trying to grow the business as well. And think about who's now in charge, James Bisgrove, right? Think about the way he operates and the things that he's done and how he's grown rapidly, like kind of commercial and all that kind of stuff. Well, if the possibility is there to get a figurehead in like Souness, I would be pretty sure that James Bisgrove would be looking to take it. So, what is it? It's the 17th of May. Let's see what happens in the next few weeks, Derek. This will probably become another one of Stevie's like internet memes where he upsets everybody, like I did with Ben Davies or Gio or whoever. You know, that Moles thing last week. Geez, I thought I was going to get run down the road.
I said the fire amongst the pigs, isn't it?
You're not allowed an opinion anymore, Derek, unless everyone agrees. So let's see where this one gets me. But that's if anything's going to happen with Souness, that's my prediction. And it's only a prediction. It's not based on anything. The club don't tell you stuff like this. They don't share it, and they haven't made any comment on it officially or unofficially. So that's purely my prediction, and we'll see where it takes us.
Yeah, just on Stevie's piece, folks, if you've not read it, let us know in the comments. Pete Morelos, Pete Yelovich, or Pete Moles, who you having in your Rangers team? Let us know in the comments.
Do you know the funny thing about that, Derek? Just to interrupt you a wee bit, is the article's not even about that. It's like two lines. And it was something that somebody had asked on Twitter 6 months ago. And it would be, what's your preference? Who do you think was best? Who would fit in your team? And it was like Pete Moles, Pete Morelos, Pete Yelovich. And the funny thing is, I think on the poll online that Johnny then done, like Moles ran away with it. I think Moles had 55% of the votes or something. Morelos was 27%. And Yelovich was way down. And Nikica Yelovich was brilliant. Now, I don't mind. Like, people were getting so invested and angry and stuff like that. See, like, people want Moles and all that. I don't mind at all. Michael Moles was incredible. But there's a few kind of, like, history's been really kind to Michael Moles. There's people saying, you know, that he destroyed Bayern and destroyed Celtic and stuff before he was injured and things like that. Well, he didn't. He didn't even play against Celtic before he was injured. Yeah. But the problem with that is when you're talking facts, it seems like you're talking down like Michael Moles and saying he wasn't as good. And I don't think that's the case. I just thought that Morelos in that 6-month run in 2019 was just absolutely incredible. And what the problem everybody's got now is that because Morelos is where he is now, Derek, which is, you know, completely not sharp,
as good as your last game,
not interested. The whole dynamic around that's changed as well. So I've got no problem with the opinion and discussing it. I love discussing. It's brilliant to be able to discuss 3 quality players. it's like the old Gorham McGregor Woods thing. I would
Yeah.
rather discuss football and Rangers points with people than, be arguing and be talking about how bad things are. So I don't mind that at all. But it's funny how when you do an article, folks, like you don't even think about things and you read it and proofread it and you double check it to make sure that like you've not said anything too outlandish and stuff. And then I woke up last week and I had like 100 Twitter notifications and everybody was going mental. And I was just like, oh, Derek, what have I done? So, and I didn't even read that much into it. It's just an opinion, like it's a throwaway opinion. So it was funny, but listen, the overall opinion that Moles was better and stuff, I've got no issue with that. I don't mind that at all. I was privileged to see all three, so I don't mind. And Derek, when it comes to opinions and stuff with four lads and with the review, like I've had a few unpopular ones. Ross Wilson, Gio, Ben Davies was out of nowhere and stuff, and people got onto me as well. And look how that ended up. So, see, in a couple of months' time, I'll have persuaded everyone that Morelos is the best thing since sliced bread in that 2019 run. So I've got no issues with that.
Yeah, that's the thing. Everyone's entitled to an opinion, and like you, Stevie, we're not saying you're not saying Moles and Jelic were poor players, but on Twitter it's a different discussion that you see elsewhere. It's sort of polarized.
Everybody goes mad, don't they, all the time?
They do go mad. That same day, I think I posted something like I preferred David Robertson to Arthur Newman, but I agreed that both were outstanding players for Rangers. I'm not dissing Arthur Newman in any way, shape or form. I thought he was fantastic, but for me, David Robertson I would have in my team every day of the week. But it's interesting looking back. Oh, I would love players of that caliber in the side right now. They would cost an absolute fortune if Rangers were to buy them in their peak.
It's funny, Derek, if the best, if somebody was to ask me who's the best forward and Rangers striker you've ever seen, and bear in mind I'm 39, I'm 40 this year, my answer wouldn't be Ali McCoist. My answer is Mark Hateley.
Yeah.
So that would be an interesting discussion as well. I can see people already foaming at the mouth, getting ready to jump in on that one. But Mark Hateley was incredible. He had speed, pace, power, left foot to die for, and was amazing in the air. So Hateley for me, best all-round forward that I've ever seen. Ali by a mile for striking and finishing and stuff like that. Absolutely. But do you know what? It's we've kind of went off on a wee tangent here talking about this, but see when we talk about the kind of players we had in the back, in the past rather, it's we're incredibly blessed to have seen so many players, just unbelievable.
Yeah, and Derek Gracie, what a duo that Hateley and Super, absolutely magnificent. I think it's like the best strike partnership. You'll struggle to find a better strike partnership than that. That's for sure. They were absolutely frightening up front for Rangers during the 90s. So yeah. Big Hateley was some player. If you had to pick a top three, Stevie, imagine McCoist is in there. Who else sneaks in for you?
So it's Hateley and McCoist, and then I've seen so many. You talk about Moles, Morelos, Kenny Miller had an unbelievable 6 months. He was a good player. Parso, Novo. We've seen some dynamic ones. Who would get in the third place? Maurice Johnston was incredible for us as well, Derek.
Yeah,
he was unbelievable, and then obviously he went to Everton. But we've had some unbelievably good strikers, and then Negri for 6 months was unstoppable. We've not even mentioned Chris Boyd yet, who was phenomenal at putting the ball in the net. So so many good players. But the trick is now, Derek, you need to find the next one. Because when we're talking about like Rangers transfer latest, and we're talking about Dujon Sterling being done, Kieran Dowell we think is more or less done, Jack Butland here and there with that one. There's not been any forwards as such linked yet. They've got the boy Palmer, I think, that's kind of, there's a lot of noise about that. I wouldn't be surprised if there was something in that one, because there's a lot of noise surrounding that. And he looks quite exciting, but we need to find two, dare I say, even three forwards coming in that are capable of goal scoring. So I hope, that somewhere along the lines we can find the next Morelos, the next Moles, the next Rod Wallace, the next Mark Hateley, whatever, because that's the kind of quality we really need. So, but it's a brilliant discussion. Some of the players that we've seen have been absolutely tremendous, and there's been a few the other way as well, Derek. So,
not half. As Aldo says, Sibo is up there. tell you, as cult heroes go, he's certainly a high up in the list. That's for sure. Maybe not in terms of ability. Ross Nielsen says Tav would be in Derek's top 3 strikers. He certainly would be. His strike rate is absolutely phenomenal, as I've said before. Tav up front, I'm well on board that train. Jim McCarroll just on the best left back. He says, being old Derek, best left back wasn't Newman or Robertson. It was Eric Caldo. Would love to have seen him starting for Rangers. He was a top player.
A wee shout out to Jim, Derek. He said hello to me a couple of weeks ago in the main stand. Said I was to keep up the good work on the Rangers review. He's the only person that's ever said that to me, so I quite like Jim. So we should hold Jim in high regard on here.
Yeah. Nice words indeed, Jim. And DK, thank you for correcting me. Alish Kert weren't from Armenia. They were from Azerbaijan. So thank you very much for that.
Still over there.
I don't want to infuriate anyone watching from Armenia and Azerbaijan. So thanks very much for correcting us on that. Just on the Lewis Palmer thing, Bobby Finlay raises a point. He says, Palmer's Kent's replacement. I looked at YouTube. He's a lot better and his free kicks are special. Tav, I maybe took off them, I'm afraid, but boy, can he score from anywhere. I spoke to the Greek journalist who broke the news initially last week. You can check that video on our YouTube, Twitter and Facebook, folks. Yanis Choriopoulos. He said that Rangers had shown an interest. Ditto Anderlecht from Belgium, and I believe there's 1 or 2 other clubs sniffing about this boy as well. A real talent by the looks of things, left-sided winger. I don't think he'll be short of offers come the summer. I think he's really set the hell of a light in Greece this season. He just arrived. He's a Honduran international, arrived in Greece last summer from he was playing not in the MLS but the league below that, and he's really done well over there. So expect a number of big clubs to be looking to prize him away, and by all accounts Rangers are one of the interested parties. So stay tuned to that with that one. I think it certainly fits the mould of a Kent replacement, Stevie, by all accounts, and Rangers will need to fill that void come the summer when he departs Ibrox.
What was the name of the journalist again?
Yanis Choriopoulos. And I'm not saying that again.
Yeah, rather you than me. I hope that anyone that we sign in the summer doesn't have a nickname like that, or I'll quickly be just calling them Jim up front. So, no, look, I'm the same as most people. I think maybe not wild knowledge of the boy, but I have watched him a wee bit, and this is what I would like to see Rangers do. I would like to see Rangers venture into a couple of markets, Derek, that may be unfamiliar. I can completely understand why Michael Beale might go and get Sterling, might go and get Butland, might go and get Buell, because he knows them, and there's going to have to be some sensible purchases. We don't have 50 million, we don't have 30 million. I still think, as a guesstimate, you'll have somewhere around what Gio got last summer, somewhere around £15 million. But in that, he probably needs to do some wheeling and dealing. So you might see Kamara going out and stuff like that. So if we're going to spend £4.5 million on a boy, I quite like, somebody exciting that's got a wee bit of difference, that's got something like this. Somebody that's going to get you on the edge of your seat. And then all of a sudden, if you stick him next to Raskin, Cantwell, Tom Lawrence coming in, guys like that, all of a sudden it gets a wee bit more exciting for us to watch and look forward to. But I'd like to see somebody like that come in, capable of scalping the ball, take a few shots, score some goals. Whoever comes in for us up front, they all need to be hitting 15 goals. So, this one for me, Honduran international, it's exciting. It ticks the kind of unknown boxes. We want a wee bit of, I think, excitement in that team. I think that's fair. Ryan Kent, when he first came in, was kind of bustling and had that excitement around him. And last year in Europe, he was absolutely exceptional. So, you're maybe not missing a lot at the moment. You're not replacing a lot at the moment, because I think that, we had this opinion a couple of weeks ago, Derek. Another unpopular opinion when I said he had checked out and I didn't think he had performed. We've seen what happened there. So I wonder if a guy like this, to me, would really excite me. I wonder if it would others. It'd be interesting to get comments on that. But I think, you look at his range of goals, like the boy said, the comments there, free kicks and stuff like that. That's exciting to me. I want that kind of profile. I want that kind of excitement brought in the summer. I wouldn't be surprised, as I said, if there's a wee bit of interest in this, because it does seem to be, I always think it's interesting when a player's linked and it's strongly linked in that country and our journalists maybe haven't picked up on it yet. That's sometimes where I think things might be true. Sometimes when you get linked to a player from our journalists and they aren't talking about it in the country, and that's never really come to fruition. But the likes of, the boys that were linked last year, and then that suddenly came true. Like, I'm thinking about Yilmaz, that when it was broken out there, and we hadn't picked up on it yet here, that one turned out to be true. So one to watch, that boy. Derek, I wouldn't be against it. I can't say I know a lot about him, but just on immediate things that I've seen and the kind of excitement factor, the wow factor, I'd be quite keen on that one. Make it interesting and one to get excited about, I think.
Yeah, from what I hear, when Yanis was telling me about him, he sounds like an exciting player and one I wouldn't be opposed to seeing pitch up at Ibrox. Thanks to David Christie, I was right initially. The Alishkert are Armenian. I checked them up as well, yes. So I was right the first time. I was right the first time. And
just over there, whatever way you look at it, like.
And on the striker front, Iron Brew says, I like the big lad up front at Man City. Could be worth a cheeky offer. Don't think he'd get a game, Stevie, myself, up front for Rangers, right enough. Big Erling. But he's doing not bad.
Who's he going to replace? Matondo? I don't think that's really fair on Rabi, to be honest. Like.
No, absolutely. Might get a place on the bench, and that's about it. But excellent stuff. I think that'll do us there. Thanks to everyone for interacting with the show. Big thanks to Stevie, as ever, for joining us. Just to mention about that offer, folks, you can subscribe to the website for an entire year for just £12. It is a cracking deal. And you can also get even more money off. I've popped it in the description. If you use the code Clifford10, you get 10% off, don't you, Stevie?
Yeah, it's just it's my way of apologising to everybody for listening to my opinions and rabbling on for the last year. But it's a great offer, Derek. If you it takes it down to, I think, 1080, and you'll get, somewhere around that. I haven't properly looked into it. So if my maths off the top of my head is right, it's somewhere around that, Derek. So I hope that, people give it a try. Even the £4 for the 4 months, that'll give people a chance to look into what we're doing. It's worth it. Even just to see Joshua's tactical stuff and your big reads, some of the big interviews. Mo Edu's interview this week was really good, with Ian King and stuff. So it's a lot of diverse kind of options. And if you want to know the tactical ins and outs, then you can get that. And then you get a weekly column from me kind of talking more. I've always kind of written from the stands and a fan's viewpoint. So it's maybe not as polished as guys, other guys on here. But I like to think that it's a kind of diverse opinion that kind of provokes conversation and stuff like that. So it's interesting. I love talking about Rangers, Derek. I talk about Rangers all day. So it's great to have that interaction. And when people like Jim stop you in the stadium and say, you've done really well. And young lad spoke to me at the weekend as well and said he loves watching and what we do and stuff. So really appreciate it. It's fun. Nobody's chased me down Edmondson Drive yet for saying that Morelos and Moles and stuff. But if there is to be a chase, I don't think it would be too long, Derek. So it's all good.
As Stevie says, now is the time to sign up, folks. He mentioned some of the great stuff you'll find on there. There's a brilliant piece on Ridvan Yilmaz, a tactical piece on there that you can get your teeth stuck into. As an opinion piece on Todd Cantwell from Joshua, as he mentioned there. Ian King's interview with Maurice Edu is on there as well. I actually spoke to Jazz Jutley as well, former Rangers youth player, which is on there. You can have a read at that. Brilliant insight into his time at Rangers and dealing with some of the abuse he suffered as a young player as well, and his new coaching venture. He's doing fabulous as well on the coaching front also. So do go check all those out. Head over to rangersreview.co.uk and /subscribe if you haven't already signed up, and take advantage of that great offer. And as I mentioned, you'll also be entered into the draw for the lunch for 3 with a club legend at the Blue Sky Lounge restaurant on the 3rd of June. So well worth it. Okay, we'll be back again tomorrow. I'll be on with Chris Jack tomorrow, folks. But until then, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Bye for now.